Hi everyone. You're in rural development policies. We are going to discuss few more of the policies, and apart from that, in today's session, we are also going to talk about Shama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission, right? That has been given in your syllabus very prominently. So that is also one thing that we'll be discussing apart from few other things. Very good evening. Apart from few other things that are there into your syllabus, okay? So let's start with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. After that, we'll be discussing Shama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission. That is very, very important because it has been given directly into your syllabus. So we'll be discussing that particular scheme very, what you can say, in very much detail, right? So that is going to be the focus for today. Let us start. First of all, we have Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, right? So a very important scheme. Components have been asked. It is a perennial scheme, right? The questions of this can be asked in a multiple format, right? And it always remains in news. So that is why it has been launched in the year 2016. What are the aims? Aims is to construct houses for the below poverty line families in villages. This is going to be the aim of this particular scheme. Now this has not been a new initiative. ठीक है, इससे पहले भी जो है previous governments have taken step for the construction of houses. Previous governments ने भी इस तरीके के जो है steps already लिए हुए हैं. For example, if you see Indira Awas Yojana is the history of it 1996. ठीक है, 1996 में इंदिरा आवास योजना and then restructured to the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin from the April 1, 2016. So not a new scheme, but I would say there has been what you can say restructuring of the name, but the intention remains the same. Coverage is going to be in rural areas throughout India, but except your Delhi and Chandigarh. These are the exceptions. Who all are going to be the beneficiaries? The beneficiaries are identified by the socio-economic caste census 2011. List presented to Gram Sabha for the validation, and houseless households living in 0, 1 or 2 kacha wall and kacha roof they are prioritized over here. Now when it comes to funding, just like any other normal scheme, this is also following 60-40 general, 90:10 for the northeastern as well as the Himalayan states, right? Administrative expenses, 4% of the program funds, that is there. Social audit is mandatory by the Gram Sabha. Social audit units that are set up by state and UT governments under MG Narega, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, they should ensure that social audit is conducted in every Gram Panchayat once in a year. So out of this you have to remember two things. यहाँ पे आपको दो चीजें याद रखने की जरूरत है. Number one, this line is very very important. That is, social audit needs to be mandatory by the Gram Sabha. Who is responsible for it? So that is Gram Sabha for you. And the second thing that you have to remember is timing, right? So periodicity is something that you have to focus on. And यहाँ पे it has been given to you that the audit of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana should be conducted in every Gram Panchayat at least once in a year. कम से कम एक बार. Training partner is National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj along with the State Institutes of Rural Development. There have been phases of it, right? Sorry. Phase 1 is 1 crore Pakka houses by 2019, March 31st, 2019. Phase 2, 1.95 crore houses up to 2022, and right now we are in 2.95 crore number of houses that needs to be constructed by March 2024. So this is the phase where we are in. Now these were the basic features of the scheme that you need to remember very very carefully. After that, let us talk about features कम benefits of this particular scheme. ठीक है, यहाँ पे दोनों ही चीजें आ गई आपकी. features के बारे में भी हम बात करेंगे, and simultaneously we'll also be talking about what are the benefits and features. So assistance of 1.2 lakhs / 1.3 lakhs. That means if the beneficiary is into plain area, then 1.2 lakh as an assistance would be provided for the construction of house. घर बनाने के लिए आपको 1.2 लाख दिए जाएंगे if you reside in a plain area, right? If you reside in a hilly area, then obviously the support would be increased and the support is going to be 1.3 lakhs. Facility of loan up to 70,000, it is optional. 12,000 would be given for the construction of toilet, and over here This particular component is financed through Swachh Bharat Mission, Grameen, as well as the labor from the Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme would also be provided, right? So these are the what you can say combination of schemes that is coming together. 60% of the funds for SC/ST, 15% of the funds for minorities, and 5% of the funds for the persons who are differently abled. Minimum size 25 square meters with hygienic cooking space. Now these are few of the what you can say features of it. House is electrified by using Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana, right? Free LPG connection is provided through Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, and efforts are also being made for providing the piped water supply under the Jal Jeevan mission. So this is the combination of so many government schemes coming together. You see electricity related component, gas related component, right? MG Narega, that means the what you can say unskilled labor would also be provided over here, and then water related component is obviously here itself. So it is a combination of so many government schemes coming together under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Grameen, right? There are multi-level monitoring, social audit through community participation. We have seen the role of Gram Sabha for this. Central and state government officials, national level monitors. Again, implementation is something that you need not to focus so much on to, ठीक है? इतना ज़्यादा implementation part पे focus नहीं करना है, हमें features के बारे में ध्यान रखना है. Next is continuation of this particular scheme. So yes, the scheme is going to be beyond March 2021 till March 2024 as per the existing norms to complete the remaining houses. And the cumulative target, that means the target that we have seen 1.95 crores, etc., this is not in isolation, this is cumulative target. That means in together all total 2.95 crore houses needs to be built up. Okay. Next thing that we have, just wait for a second. Next we have the rural housing interest subsidy. So it has been launched in the year 2017. What was the intention of this particular scheme? Was to provide the cheap and easy access to the institutional loan to the households which are living in the rural areas, right? Coverage is going to be to cover entire India excluding the statutory towns and the towns notified for the inclusion under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana urban. That particular part is excluded. Maximum loan amount that would be provided of first is 2 lakh irrespective of the quantum of housing loans for the 20-year period. So this is something that you can remember. That is it under here. Now the next thing that is very very important is this particular scheme. ठीक है, ये बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. This is given directly into your syllabus of rural banking, right? So what is it? It is called as Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban Mission, right? Also called as National Rurban Mission, right? So over here, what is the intention? That means we want to maintain the essence of village. ठीक है, गांव का जो एक essence होता है वो maintain करना चाहते हैं, but at the same time we want to provide the facilities of cities in these villages as well. ठीक है, कोई भी facility जो आपको cities में available है, the same kind of facilities we want to provide to cluster of villages, right? Cluster of rural areas. So this is the intention of this particular urban mission. Here you will see that we will be talking about the facilities a lot more. So let us see, has been launched in the year 2016. Now what is the aim? Aim is to create 300 rural growth clusters in 5 years. When it was launched, this was the intention कि 300 clusters. Now what does cluster mean? See, suppose this is a single village, right? ये single village है. But when I am talking about a cluster, I am talking about village 1, village 2, village 3, village 4, village 5, right? Like that. And it might happen that there is a town in between. ठीक है? So this complete together will be called as a cluster. ठीक है, हम इसको totally together क्या बोलेंगे, एक cluster. Let us see. What is the vision over here? So one by one we will be discussing the aims and objectives as well. See, so vision is Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission follows the vision of development of cluster of villages that preserves and nurture the essence of rural community life, but at the same time having the facilities that are available in urban India. The objective of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission is to stimulate local economic development, enhance basic services, create well-planned urban clusters, right? It is inspired by Pura. Pura is provision of urban amenities to rural area, right? Urban amenities, urban facilities we are providing to the rural India as well. Urban clusters of contiguous villages with a population of 25,000 to 50,000 in plain areas, 5,000 to 15,000 in desert, hilly or tribal areas, right? So this is going to be the population or a minimum population of one cluster. Now, what are the components that we are aiming to provide in those clusters? मतलब किस तरीके की facilities हम देना चाहते हैं under Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission, right? We are saying we have devised a new term, urban, that is rural and urban, combination of both of these. See, so skill development training, agro processing, agri services, mobile health unit, that means for example ambulances which are equipped with all kind of primary health care, right, which can provide you what you can say primary health intervention at the time of need, and it is running on wheels, so that is something we call as mobile health unit. Education facilities, sanitation, piped water, solid and liquid waste management, right? Village streets, street lights, inter-village road connectivity, public transport, LPG gas, digital literacy, as well as the common service centers for the e-delivery of citizen-centric services or the e-gram connectivity. See, we all know that nowadays government facilities as well as the government services, they are all online, right? So if I have to access any government service, I have to go to, let's say, a particular center. So that is called as the common service center, where the citizens can go and they can take there is a resource person sitting which is going to help you if you in case you want to access any government service online, right? अगर कोई government facility आपको online access करनी है, you can easily do that. Moving ahead, how this is going to be funded. So this is what has been told over here. So critical gap funding shall be in addition to the funds which are available to the project through ministry. 30% of the additional funding or the project cost of 30 crore plus cluster, whichever is lower, would be provided, and 70% would be provided by the states, right? So this is the combination of central as well as the state funding related infrastructure or the funding related support. Is it important? The answer would be it is low to medium importance, right? Not very much important. I will keep it into the low importance category. All kinds of funding in all kinds of policies that we have discussed, सभी में जो है आपका funding वाला जो part है, that is not really very important, right? Other basic features, those are really important. Now let us see the other features of the schemes as well. So what is the role of state government? State government, they shall prepare an integrated action plan that would lay down the development aspirations. States are going to identify existing central sector, centrally sponsored and state government schemes which are relevant for the development of clusters. Implementation at national level. So NRUM, they will be run at center level by the National Mission Directorate headed by the Joint Secretary. There will be an empowered committee which is be headed by the Secretary of the Ministry, Rural Development, right? He will approve these particular plans submitted by the states. He will approve the funding for the cluster and take other necessary decisions. Now, there are other implementation levels at state level. So at the state level, Department of Rural Development or any department nominated by the state government, they will be designated as state nodal agency. Department will be supported by state project management unit, right? And there will be a state level empowered committee headed by the chief secretary would also be there, and they are going to approve these kind of action plans together. So this is going to be the implementation. Next is function is something that we need to see. Yes. So implementation at cluster level, there will be special planning professionals, rural management professionals, right? These two professionals will be helping for the cluster development. Now the fund release pattern that we also see. How the funds are going to be released. So yes, ministry will release 35 lakh rupees per urban cluster approved in the state for these particular action plans. They will be adjusted. 2% administrative budget would also be there. See, anything, whenever any particular scheme comes out, there is an administrative percentage is also deducted, because at the end of the day it is human element, and apart from that there will be a lot of other things that will be necessary to carry out the scheme or the mission related work easily. So that is why out of the total budget, some part or some percentage of it is kept for the administrative costs as well. First installment, that means 30% of the funding will be released after the approval of the plan by the ministry. 30% would be released after the submission of the approval of the final funding for the project by the ministry, and there will be third installment of 40%. They will be released after the utilization certificates are submitted. So this is going to be the funding related procedure. Now how these clusters will be selected, so this is something which is very important. ठीक है, सारे parts में से this particular part is really important, where we'll be talking about selection of urban clusters. So there are two categories, non-tribal and tribal. State may identify a large village or gram panchayat that are growth centers with resource available that could potentially lead to economic transformation. These growth centers, it could be a block headquarter, that is group of villages, it could be a village or census town as well. Clusters then would be formed by identifying geographically contiguous villages and gram panchayats within a radius of 5 to 10 kilometers around identified growth center. What is it? So as I have already told you, cluster means what? There would be a town in between, and around the villages, whatever are there in the radius of 5 to 10 kilometers, they will be combined together, and this is something we call it as cluster. जैसा कि मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया, and the same thing has been told over here. So there would be a growth center. Growth center का मतलब क्या? Town. Mostly if you belong to a village area, or even if you obviously you travel and you know that for a group of villages there is a town in between, right? And every village is connected to that. So that is something we call it as growth center. उसी को हम क्या कहते हैं? Growth center. Now next we have non-tribal clusters. So for the selection of non-tribal clusters, Ministry is going to provide a list of leading sub-districts to each state within which the clusters could be identified. Now, how the selection of these sub-districts would be done, let us see that as well. See, so decadal growth in rural population, non-farm participation, economic clusters, presence of places of tourism and religious significance, and proximity to what you can say transport corridors. Now this is something on the basis of which sub districts would be selected, right? Appropriate weightage would be given for the each parameter, and within these sub districts so identified, state government could select the clusters, and while doing so they will include the following parameters. So first of all, sub districts would be selected, that means the components of clusters would be selected, and then state would formulate the clusters on the basis of these parameters. So ये कुछ parameters हैं on the basis of which we create the clusters, right? See, these parameter tells us that what is the potential for growth. ठीक है, इनसे हमको पता चलता है कि okay, non farm activity क्या है, right? What is the economic level of activity there, and if these are at a good level, then obviously it tells us that there is a lot of scope for the improvement, and on the basis of which, because see, there are so many gram panchayats in India, there are so many districts, so, and you have said that you are going to, what you can say, formulate a limited number of clusters. So obviously you have to handpick the gram panchayats, or let's say you have to handpick the villages. On what basis you are going to do that? कुछ तो parameters आपको decide करने पड़ेंगे ना. So these are those particular parameters, right? See, growth in population, rise in land values, growth in non-farm work participation, enrollment of girls in secondary school, right? Performance in Swachh Bharat mission, good governance initiative by the Gram Panchayat, right? Next, see, a total weightage of 80%, it would be given for the first 4 parameters, and the states will have the flexibility for choosing the last 3 parameters weightage. Now, this is it that you need to understand. For the tribal clusters, this is going to be the parameter: decadal growth, literacy rate, non-farm workforce participation, growth in rural population, and presence of economic clusters, right? So this is going to be the parameter. Now next we have Mission Antyodaya. Let us see that. So it was launched in the year 2017, right? Now we'll just quickly see the what you can say, intentions or the features of this particular scheme, and then we'll quickly move through. So it has been launched in the year 2017. What are the aims? To address the multidimensionality of the poverty in time-bound manner, right? To make real difference based on the measurable outcomes in the life of 1 crore households in 5,000 rural clusters or the 50,000 gram panchayats, and it was having a vision of poverty-free India by the year 2022. Who's going to monitor Mission Antyodaya? So Gram Panchayat is basic unit for monitoring the transformation. The objective of the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission is to stimulate the local economic development, hence basic services and planned urban clusters would be provided over here. Now, what does Mission Antyodaya means? See, Mission Antyodaya means the person who is standing at the end of the line, ठीक है? ऐसा कोई भी person जो line के end में खड़ा है, we should be able to provide the services to that particular person as well, ठीक है? हम उसको भी जो है services provide करा सकें, and this is what Mission Antyodaya means. Now, what are the outcomes under this? Strong infrastructure for the selected gram panchayats, right? Enhanced economic opportunities through diversified livelihood, and strengthen the democratic processes through capacity building of Panchayati Raj institutions, right? So these were few of the outcomes that are envisaged. Now, some small components or the small parts, let us see that as well. So there is a National Rural Livelihood Project. It has been designated as a subset of National Rural Livelihood Mission. If you remember Deen Dayal Upadhyay National Rural Livelihood Mission, it is the part of subset of that. Funding is there from the International Development Association. It is a part of World Bank, so that is where we are getting the funding, and it would be implemented in 13 high poverty states, that is accounting for 90% of the rural poor in the country. Next we have DISHA, that is District Development Coordination and the Monitoring Committee. What is the aim of it? To ensure better coordination among all elected representatives in parliament, state legislature, local governments, etc. Now, district collector, member secretary responsible for timely follow-up. DISHA supersedes the district vigilance as well as the monitoring committee. See, basically what it does is it will cover all non-statutory schemes of the government that are administered in general, right? So this is the function. The basic function of this particular scheme is related to monitoring part, ठीक है? यहाँ पे हम बहुत ज़्यादा monitoring के बारे में बात करेंगे. Next is Kushal Panji. Kushal Panji is for upgrading the skills of rural youth between the age of 18 to 35, right? Project implementing agencies, they can also contribute in upgrading the skills. The candidates can register using the socio-economic caste census data. Rural self-employment training institutes and Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gramin Kaushal Yojana partners, they can also access this particular scheme to connect with mobilizing the rural youth. Now, where this could be useful for you? So, it is useful under the skill development related initiatives. Then we have provision for urban amenities in the rural areas. This is a component of your urban mission, right? It was approved by the government in the year 2004. Pilot phase was evaluated by National Institute of Rural Development. This is a central sector scheme which is relaunched by the Ministry of Rural Development during the remaining period of 11th plan. And we understand what was the intention of this particular scheme. Now next we have Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. So this is something where we have tried to initiate the good policies for the backward areas, right? So let us see. Land Reform Division was implementing two centrally sponsored schemes, that is computerization of land records and strengthening of revenue administration. And then later on we came up with this particular initiative called as Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. See, if you will see in our courts, what is the major thing that is under dispute? It is land related cases. So if we are able to work on it, if we are able to create a digital database of it, then at a certain extent we would be able to reach to the solution. Okay? And at a certain extent we can stop people from illegally claiming the what you can say land of other people, right? So this is all intention of this particular scheme is. It has three components. First of all, computerization of land records, doing the survey, and computerization of the registration related part as well. What was the target? So vision of department to complete the computerization digitization by the financial year 2023. So this is what the intention of this particular scheme was, right? Now I have to tell you one more scheme that is there, and this is your, yes, Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan. So this is for the transformation of aspirational districts program to quickly and effectively transform the selected district, right? Cabinet has approved the continuation of this particular centrally sponsored Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan from 2022 till 2026. Now, what are the focus area of this? Let us see this. So, basic orientation training for the elected representatives of Panchayat, right, within 6 months of their election. Refresher training within 2 years. What is refresher training? Refresher training is provided so that suppose I have learned something today, but if I will not practice it, I am going to forget about it, right? मैं इसके बारे में भूल जाऊंगी. So that is where refresher trainings would be ensured within 2 years. Capacity building of elected representatives with priority to aspirational districts. Strengthening of Panchayat and SHG self-help group partnership. When these two will come together, obviously something good is going to happen, because it what you can say strengthens the women at a grassroots level. Now it also wants to bridge the gap in capacity building and training. It also wants to improve the infrastructure of Gram Panchayat, use of information technology for the distance learning and for e-enablement of panchayats, right? Institutional support for the innovation as well as technical support for the human resource based on identified gaps. Now, other things. Little bit about funding as well. So the central component of this particular scheme, it is going to be fully funded by the government of India. Funding pattern for the state components, they are going to be in the 60-40 ratio, and obviously for the northeastern as well as for the Himalayan states, it's going to be 90:10. Coverage is going to be, it will extend to all the states as well as the UTs of India, right? And will also include institutions of rural local governments in the non-part 9 related areas. Now, implementation strategy and targets, what are these? See, so central government and state governments, they will take action for completing activities. The state governments, they will formulate their annual action plans for seeking the assistance, and the schemes would be implemented in a demand driven mode. Institutional mechanism is like this. There will be a state advisory committee, Minister for Panchayati Raj, state steering committee, chief secretary, state executive committee, secretary, Panchayati Raj department, and chairperson. Number of beneficiaries would be around 60 lakhs elected representatives. Basically, this particular scheme, Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, is focusing on how you can transform your elected representatives. Once you are able to do that, obviously you are going to bring the change at a village level as well, right? Monitoring is going to be broadly through the line for achieving the sustainable development goals. Now, this is something that I wanted to discuss over here. Now, just wait for 2 minutes, and we'll have to discuss one more scheme. Yes. So with this particular scheme, we'll be able to cover all the things that we had discussed in the rural development policies. We have discussed everything related to skill development, water related things, right? And Shama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission. And right now we will be talking about this particular scheme, and then we'll be ending our discussion. So Swamitwa scheme, it is for the survey of villages as well as mapping with the technology in rural areas. Objective remains same. What we want to do, accurate land records we want to create. We want to prepare quality gram panchayat development plans, right? We want to allot property cards for sourcing the bank loan. See, if I will be having the property cards and obviously that thing will be in my name, I can go to any particular bank and I can ask for the loans as well by keeping that land as collateral. Reduce property related disputes. So these are all the things that are the intentions of Swamitwa scheme. It has been launched in pilot phases in 9 states. Government of India launched for pan-India coverage from the April 24, 2021. Budget allocation has also been provided. It covers 29 states as well as UTs. Nearly 1.2 lakh villages have been covered till 31st March 2022, and the remaining villages are planned to be covered through drone survey by March 2024, right? So this is also important. We are using technology for surveying all the lands, right? So drone survey is an important component of your Swamitwa scheme. Next is components. So establishment of operating reference stations, fund recipients, Survey of India, 50% of total estimated cost and remaining 50% of the total estimated cost for the respective state. So this is how the funds would be dispersed, right? There would be large scale mapping through drones. So rural inhabited area is being mapped by the Survey of India using the drone related survey. Then other important thing is there would be online monitoring system. It will be online monitoring and reporting dashboard, monitoring, tracking the progress of activities, a special planning application, that is Gram Manchitra. It has been implemented by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj for leveraging the GIS maps. So this is again an important component of this particular scheme which you can choose to remember. And then a little bit discussion of monitoring mechanism as well. So National Steering Committee under chairmanship of Secretary Panchayati Raj for providing the overall policy direction. So steering committee would be chaired by this particular secretary. State steering committee would be chaired through the revenue and Panchayati Raj related what you can say bureaucrats, right? And district level monitoring and review committee would be under the chairmanship of the district collector. Now this is related to what you can say your monitoring mechanism thing. And lastly, for the DigiLocker app as well. So property cards, they will now be available on your DigiLocker app, and beneficiaries, they can now view and download their property cards through the DigiLocker app. So this was something, and we have completed all the rural development related policies, right? And we have done that for water related thing, for skill development related thing, for a general what you can say, if you talk about Awas Yojana, or even if we talk about the urban mission, right? So every possible scheme has been discussed. What you have to focus is just on the features of the scheme, right? Important features of the scheme, and then you will be good to go for your rural banking related subject, right? So this is it. Thank you so much, and I hope you must have understood something out of this lecture. If you did, then please do not forget to like this video. Thank you so much.